Now, it's not uncommon for you to see any of these ads flying around selling you dreams of financial freedom whilst you get to work on your tan, sit on a beach with a laptop and count those zeros in your bank every single night. However, the true reality is far different. You see, what these courses, ads, gurus, mentors and coaches don't actually tell you is that you can become financially free without having to DM them and pay for their ridiculously generic advice masked with overhyped positivity and the you can do it chance to keep you feeling like you're going somewhere. You can do it! But to stay on the topic here and to give you as much insight into the world of financial freedom, I have, as of today, in 2020, the year that just keeps on giving, 2 ways you can potentially become financially free. Now, my disclaimer here is that this will depend a lot on your current lifestyle, the choices you make from here on out, and also to let you know that it may not be achievable as quickly as those ads that we saw flying around earlier tend to state. So firstly, it's important we have at least some common agreement as to what financial freedom actually means. For some of us, we may even refer to it as financial independence. And it could be the notion of having your expenditure covered and allowing yourself to live a life on your own terms as and when you wish. That sounds pretty great. Whereas for others, it may just be to have your expenditure covered without having to be present, and anything else that you're able to generate through other means of income is just a bonus, allowing you to maybe treat yourself as you wish. So for the purposes of this particular video, I'm going to kind of merge those together and put those ideas into one. And we're going to go with this statement. Financial freedom means you can live life each and every day your way without being stressed about money. Or at least that's how I viewed it and pursued it many years ago. You see, a few years ago, things weren't as great. And maybe like yourselves, depending on where you are watching this, the chances of financial freedom may just seem like a pipeline dream. Trust me, they seem the same for myself. And having spent most of my life being an academic studying degrees, diplomas and masters, to only realize that the small deductions from my wage packets every single month were going to loan companies, I was pretty disheartened. And on top of that, obviously when I got a job, I wanted to buy a house and a car to further increase my personal debt. Now at this stage, I became just like 90% of us watching this video, someone who had increased his expenditure with his income, but also accrued more debt in the process. And if you're one of those people, don't worry, you're not alone, because recent studies and research have shown 42.7 million people in the UK between the ages of 16 and 64 are in debt, and 26.9 million people are potentially heading into debt in the new year. Now, as frightening as that sounds, it doesn't surprise me because financial independence was never taught in schools, and I certainly never learned it at university. You would think that spending thousands and thousands and thousands on education, leaving a grammar school, I would at least understand money, right? Wrong. But unfortunately, I managed to somehow figure it out in my mid-20s, and that, along with this very long-winded intro, is what I want to share with you guys today. So money and debt, as I alluded to earlier, is one of the biggest stressors amongst our lives. And as much as I would love to personally reduce your debt, I'm just here figuring it out myself. Yes, I am barely financially free, but I'm still far away from where I need to be, want to be, and one day hope to be before I can truly alleviate maybe the burden of some of your shoulders. Yes, I have aspirations of being just like Mr. Beast. But anyway, moving on. So the first way to potentially become financially free is to do the follows, and this exercise will require you to work backwards. So grab yourself that pen and paper because it's going to be really handy for you to have now. Okay, so hopefully now we've all got our pens ready. I need you to do the following. I need you to firstly split the page in half. Now on the left hand side, I need you to write incomings, and on the right hand side, I need you to put down the word outgoings. Now the left is pretty straightforward. Here you want to put your incomings such as your job, your business, your side hustle, or any other types of consistent income that you have coming in on a monthly basis. And then what I need you to do is tally that up and put a total at the bottom. Now the next part is the fun part, where you realize all those silly direct debits that you have, and well, some of them you probably don't even remember actually taking out, or those pointless purchases you rarely make use of. So make sure you fill it out as accurately and as honestly as possible. And once you've done all of this, make sure you total that up at the bottom. And then also I need you to spend a moment to write down how much you spend on ad hoc stuff as well. For example, the weekend parties, the retail therapy, and those expensive cups of coffee which to me tastes exactly like the store brands, and I just think are overpriced. Now once you have this, tally this up too, and then write down the difference. And for this point, remember, if your incomings are more than your outgoings, you are in a surplus every single month. And of course, if your outgoings are more than your incomings, you are in a deficit each month, i.e. you're going into debt or into your savings. Now, of course, I don't know the answers to what you have written down, but there was a time when I was in a deficit each and every month, and I knew something had to change. You see, going self-employed was scary, and knowing that property investment would take me time to build on and learn and then thrive off, I had to make instant sacrifices to at least keep my head above water. And that I did. For the first 4 years of being self-employed and being a property investor, I reduced my unnecessary expenditure. So that stuff on the right hand side, I really started to look at it. I started with the most responsible thing, and I borrowed my mom's Netflix password, Amazon Prime, and even installed Sky Go on my PS4 to save that hefty bill each and every month. And this in total kind of saved me around £100 a month. Next up, I had to become a bit of an ASBO, which actually wasn't too difficult given that property investment was hard and required long days on the road, doing viewings, networking and firefighting with many obstacles. So by becoming an ASBO and reducing my weekend drinking fun, I was then able to save another £200. Then, as I mentioned, I think in another video, my spending habits reduced also in terms of the ad hoc stuff, and I reduced these quite considerably, knowing that, well, I had enough nice clothes for special occasions, and generally speaking, joggers, sweats and t-shirts is where I feel most comfortable at. I stopped shopping, and I went through these receipts and I realized that well, I had a bit of an addiction with ASOS and also just spending for no reason. And as a result of that, I was able to then save a further £200 a month. So this short exercise instantly saved me around £500 a month, which was great because it allowed me to then keep my head above water in terms of my incomings and outgoings. But I then realized that if a birthday came in the same month as my tire blowing up, for example, do tires blow up, or did I mean flatten? As my tire getting ruined basically, or I needed to do something very unexpected, then I would be jumping back into my savings or going further into debt, which wasn't a great place to be and not a place I needed to be in mentally. So I realized I had to generate more income, and I actually did this through property. I brought myself a second buy to let, and I also brought myself a 4-bed HMO, which is basically a house of multiple occupancy. Now this actually brought me in around £800 net per calendar month. Now of course at this point I want to stress that not everyone can just sit there and say, hey, I'm gonna go buy a HMO, and not all HMOs are actually worth it, but that's a video for another day. But what I have always done, as I mentioned in one of my videos here, was work since a young age and save. Nothing I can share here right this second or you will find anywhere else will instantly make those sacrifices and make that process much shorter for you. So sometimes we have to just knuckle down and work towards that bigger picture. But it also took a fair chunk of my savings. And although I knew that this extra £800 would allow me some breathing space in terms of being able to go and afford those expensive cups of coffee once in a while, if I wanted to, I wouldn't always need to worry about dipping into my savings. So hopefully by you guys doing this exercise, this very quick one, I hope it will at least either help you work towards some level of instant financial freedom by adopting a more minimalist lifestyle and prioritizing your free time of having fancy materialistic items and spending money on things that won't actually give you a net positive return other than the moment you have them, and also will stop you having to go to work to then pay for these foolish habits. And for anyone else who still struggles to maybe make ends meet here, then the next part of the video is for you. This part of the video is where you will need to generate more income in order to supplement your current lifestyle. So let's kickstart this. Multiple streams of income. Now there are many ways to produce more income, although a lot of these will take time, which is contradictory to the notion of financial freedom, as freedom is literally the last thing to come, but it can come. So stick with me. One of the ways that I know and I'm very confident is to invest in property. For me, I was fully aware that if I started to plant some seeds, and I use property as an example for this, I could generate more money from my own money rather than leaving it in the bank. For example, 40,000 in the bank was giving me, I don't know, £10 or something stupid like that. Whereas £40,000 in that HMO I mentioned was giving me around £800 net per calendar month. Number two, work more. Now, another way you can obviously generate more income is just by doing overtime or picking up a second job. Of course, there is a ceiling with this, so please don't destroy yourselves working every single hour possible, especially if it's at the detriment of your own health. A third way is that you can start a side hustle. Now, I want to actually do a few more videos on this, so if you're interested, please let me know in the comments, because we've started a few side hustles ourselves over the years that have helped us in times of need. Not immensely, but they've kept us ticking over. And the thing with side hustles is they can be started pretty quickly, but unless you have instant capital to throw at them, they can also take a lot of time and energy to really get going, and you kind of need to build up a snowball effect. But what I tend to find is, as the hours compound over time, you can generate more income from them without actually spending as much time as you initially did. And the one thing I want to address here is that when you start to generate more income, and hopefully don't increase your expenditure on silly stuff at the same time, you will notice that you are spending time on things. And it's great to be in a financial surplus every single month, but you then need to assess, is it worth spending that much time on it too? Would it be better then to maybe just work a little bit less and have more freedom and still not go into debt every single month? Or do you want to consistently be in a surplus at the detriment of having no time? Think about that. And this is why, especially with myself, it came to a point when for the last few years, I had planned to make a little bit less money and plant long-term seeds, but also get my time back. I outsourced a lot of my management of my properties to agents, and I started to design a life that would allow me to dictate at least 6 out of the 7 days of my week. And I have a great video about this, by the way, coming out, which I really want to share with you in the future, about just alleviating your outgoings and spending less to really focus on your mental well-being. Because one thing I recognize is that when I started to reduce my expenditure ever so slightly every single month to stop myself from sinking or surviving, I realized that I became a lot more creative. I became a lot more happy, and it really did free up my mind. So one of the things I want to do for you guys is try and help you free your mind to a point of increasing your creativity, your mood, your motivation, and of course your overall well-being. But before I dive into that now, I'm going to let those words of my earlier points sit with you. I encourage you deeply to adopt a life more of necessity than wants, at least while you get yourself started. Concentrate please on living a life that gives you the option of being free in the day to spend time doing what you love to do with who you love to do it, rather than wasting it on materialistic stuff and then needing to put yourself in an environment 8 hours a day to pay for that privilege. But I won't sit here and lie to you like many other channels will and tell you that it's easy. It's taken me years of hard work, mistakes, and shooting many videos in my favorite Primark sweats while subliminally asking people to smash that like button and subscribe to get to where I am today. So please do let these thoughts simmer and have a think about them in your life. Try and bring those down and think about the long-term goals of where you're trying to go. I promise you it's possible. If you can become financially free now, fantastic. You're going to become more creative in the moment, and you're going to definitely start to think of ways of generating more income. Whereas if you can't do that now, then really start to plant seeds for being able to somewhere in the future get yourselves in a position of securing more income through different streams to really alleviate your stresses, because that is the key. The moment we aren't stressing about money here, we're able to put our thoughts and energy into other stuff to really make our lives more fulfilled and bring more happiness about. And I think on that note, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll some bloopers for you all, and thank you all for your time today. Sincerely, it means the world if you made it this far. Please do let me know if you did in the comments below, make it this far, and I look forward to speaking to you next time. Thanks for watching. But I will say it's taken me absolutely, but I must say it's been absolute. And I think on that note, what I'm going to do is, so please let these thoughts simmer. Now, by doing these exercises, now of course at this point I want but what I did want to, and as much as I would love to, so whilst I'll grab, and I certainly never, and well to make myself almost feel part of the circle, and while recent studies have and put those ideas in a way that whereas for other, and I spent most of my life, and the worst is